time for another edition of Pats from the Past podcast. It's Matt Smith, it's Paul Perillo, and it's number 55 in your scorecard, but number 1 in our hearts. Willie McGinest joins us. Willie, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good to be here, man.
So, I don't know if you remember this. Many, many moons ago when we started this, Brian Morey and I had this great idea to do Pats from the Past, talk to guys who used to play, go down memory lane. And the first person we had was Willie McGinest.
Really?
But we bollocksed the whole thing so badly from a technical standpoint that it never saw the air.
I had to ask Brian to leave, and I just said,
So
just go over there and take care of your haul. No.
So I was going to tell you to blame Brian on the whole thing. That's why it didn't air.
Okay, we can since he's not here,
Yes.
we can blame
Correct.
Brian.
Blame him, and you
do.
can stick him in a locker like you once did, which is one of my favorite one of my favorite days
Did he
ever in
put
this
Brian in a
organization.
locker?
Pretty much.
Good.
That was the thing back then.
Yeah.
Okay, you were.
It was a different time, Matt, when
Yes, we could do
PFW
that.
really got along with the players
right,
very
right.
well. We always got along.
Right. So a lot of people saw you at the Celtics-Lakers game last night.
Yeah.
Do you have a divided loyalty there? Is it a SoCal guy, but you're a
No,
Boston
it's my
guy?
second home.
Yeah.
Like it's I posted. It's good to be home, and I was happy to be home and be there. And it so happened they were playing the Lakers.
Right.
And of course, I'm from, the Long Beach area, the LA County area. So the Lakers are a fixture, in that area. And it's my team. I like the Lakers as well. I used to be a season ticket holder. So I was just enjoying it, man. I hadn't been to a Celtics game in a while. So just enjoying it, hanging out.
Good energy there, isn't it?
Very good energy. Very good energy. Team looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the players didn't play. We didn't see the matchups we thought we were going to see, but I mean, still being there. I mean, the TD is different than the old, the Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to the Garden, and now it's like the way you enter is different. I was just kind of like in awe looking around. It's super nice.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Can you imagine there's somebody who remembers the Garden, Paul?
Yeah, we don't have that many. Only people like us.
Exactly.
The olds,
exactly. So
they
let's get
say.
into it, Willie. You mentioned it, Southern Cal kid. And what did you know, if anything, about the Patriots, other than that they were kind of in the league? And Paul and I were talking about this beforehand. Was Dallas in on you? Was Jerry thinking that he was going to get you?
I thought I was going.
You thought Dallas?
I had Dallas Cowboy representatives at my draft party, and I elected not to go to New York. You know how that goes. So you never know where you're going to go in the draft. But I elected not to go to New York, have a party with all my friends and family, just something intimate and fun. And I had 3 Dallas Cowboy representatives at my draft party, and the deal was that they were going to move up. I think they had like this 26th pick or whatever. They were going to trade Harper, the receiver, and they were going to take me with the 5th pick. They had that. I remember the hat, the Dallas Cowboy hat was there, everything, and they were going to take me. I remember coming in for my visit with Parcells. We had one visit. We had one good meeting. It was great, but I didn't hear anything else from the Patriots after that. So I thought I was going to be a Cowboy, honestly. I was waiting to be a Cowboy, and then when my name was called forth, everybody just kind of looked around. They looked a little confused, picked up the stuff, left.
We wish you well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I remember watching the screen because they had the screen on Jerry, and he slammed the table or slammed the phone or something, and Parcells calls. And I was just like, where? I said, New England. Where the hell is New England? Like, where am I going? Because, I know Drew had went there. I played against Drew in college.
Sure.
Washington State. But it wasn't on my radar. So I was thrown off.
Good memory, Matt. You had that one nailed.
Were you disappointed, or did the, hey, I'm going to the NFL kind of overtake maybe any of the disappointment?
No, I didn't have a favorite team I wanted to go to. I mean, of course I knew about the Dallas Cowboys more than I do because they were winning. They had won a couple Super Bowls just prior to that. So, but I wasn't sitting there, I have to go to this team. I think it's a little different now. These guys, they was like, well, I don't want to get drafted by this team or that team. I was just happy and fortunate because of where I came from and, everything you go through and being the first in your family to graduate college and to be, in position to get drafted was such an honor. So I was just I was just excited once I found out where everything was, and I talked to Parcells. Hey, the party started.
Well, the first thing for me, Matt, is that I don't know if you catch this, but Willie was well ahead of the game when it came to branding. You know, he's got his own party going. I'm not going to New York. I'm doing my own thing. Now everybody does that.
Now everybody's kind of doing it, right?
So
yeah.
Willie
You're right.
Well ahead of the curve in terms of worrying about Willie as opposed to the NFL at the start.
Right.
The Parcells thing, though, that I think you were going to start, it just seems to me from afar like one of the, big, athletic, outside linebacker right out of Parcells' playbook. That's exactly what he's looking for. It seemed like a perfect fit to us from afar.
And when Parcells went into the Patriots Hall of Fame, we talked about that. His evaluation, like when he evaluated players before he became a head coach, like when he used to evaluate players and the style and type and prototype of players that he used to, scout and bring in and want on his team. And then when you look at the Giants team that he won a couple of Super Bowls with that staff, and that's the type, that's the prototype, the big, the fast, the physical guys.
6'4", 4'6" guys,
6'4",
right?
like Pepper and LT and all those guys and the big D ends, like that was just him. And then when I got drafted and got here, there were a lot of Giants, that were on the team that he had brought over, that kind of fit the bill for him.
RKK always brags that you're his first.
Yeah.
Right?
First pick.
Yeah.
Yep. When he bought the team.
Yeah, that's a nice little
fifth son, right?
Yeah, that's a
got a lot of
big.
those.
There's a lot of those, by the way.
Right.
But that's a nice little thing to know that you were his first. That in his ownership, you're the first guy.
Yeah. It started.
That was great. Why was it important to you, Willie, to be here when Parcells went into the Hall of Fame? Was it just like representing and to support?
Yeah, I mean, it's like he, when you travel through this NFL life and you've come across so many, guys that you've played with and that coached you and you work with, and he took a chance on me in the draft. Like he drafted me and he believed in me, and I just remember coming in as a young rookie and not really knowing what to expect, and having a guy like that, I was comfortable because I was used to those type of coaches, and I had, I didn't have thin skin. I was like, I took to coaches like that. That was, that was brutally honest. That was brash. That will get in your face and do all that, but then that'll love you up at the same time. And Lawrence Taylor was one of my favorite players, growing up, along with Tippett, and Derek Thomas and a couple other guys. So you coached the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest, defensive player to do it in my position. And just our interaction and just, like I said, giving me a shot and believing in me. That's, that says a lot. And then our relationship once I got here.
That's
and
great.
You guys had a lot of success, right out of the chute. 94, your rookie year, you guys end up, being a playoff team.
Got thumped by guess who?
Yeah. Now we all remember it. You'd be amazed how much Bill Parcells remembered each and every detail of that loss.
Really?
Well, he was
talking about a crossing route to Ray Crittenden that went off his face and get picked off. And we were going in to take the lead, and I mean the attention to detail from a game. Whatever, 35 years ago.
Still really sharp.
It was a physical game. It was a great game. And that team was kind of built like the Giants.
Pepper's on that team.
Pepper was on that team. I remember Eric Turner, the late, great Eric Turner.
Yeah, right.
Big safeties, big linebackers.
Yep.
I think was Pleasant over there at the time.
Yeah, I think so.
He was.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of look like us, over there. Testaverde was a quarterback.
You made the playoffs your rookie year. You guys take a step back in 95. What was a 96 season like for you, Willie, where there were so many guys on that team that ended up being foundation pieces for your team that won it in 2001, but that whole defense, Brew, Ted Johnson, Ty, Lawyer, all you guys, that was a hell of a defense in 96.
Yeah, we were a young group of guys. I think that, they were trying to put together, Bill was trying to put together that foundation. of guys like we talked about how you like to build his defense from, I would say the trenches, to the back end. And just his style of guys, Ty's a physical corner from Michigan, a guy that you can put on the island and he can pretty much do whatever, plays the run. Big Ted, we called him the monster. Again, super physical, big linebacker, and you had to fit the style we played. We played a true 3-4. So in that time, the stand-up linebackers, the Mike and the Will, they're not covered up. They're standing over the guards. So you're taking on ISOs, you're taking on guards, you're taking on fullbacks. We played a true 3-4. So you had to fit that mold and have that mentality and have those physical players to play that. And I just felt that I was lucky that I was one of the foundational pieces that Bill believed in. And then that prototype just kind of carried through this whole Patriot, legacy from then till, probably till now.
It's hard to imagine with all this, it's 30 plus years ago, but that 1996 team, that was the first home playoff win. Now, with all the wins that you enjoyed after that,
right.
But do you remember back to that run and how special it was? It starts off with that strange game in the fog against Pittsburgh.
When the fog game where
Stop the bus.
Yeah, where they were saying like I don't know how we can generate fog. Like everything was our fault. The fog, the lights I think went out, the power went out in Jacksonville. It was something every week.
Yeah.
But I just remember like playing against those physical teams and how hard it was and how tough it was. And that Pittsburgh team, man, they were something serious as well. They were talented. Carroll was coaching at the time.
He was.
That defense was one of the best defenses in the league. And offensively, I mean, they had, like you said, the bus. They had a physical offense, and they had a lot of vets on that team. And me being young still, seeing all these players out here that I was watching, it's kind of like, hey, you don't have time. You really didn't have time to just sit back and just grow up. Like, you had to get in there, you had to understand it, you had to learn it. There's a lot of pressure on you from Bill's staff to play at a certain level. I was talking about that with Al Groh. Al Groh was at, Bill's retirement, and he was just talking about how the information, you had to get fed the information, digest it, go out, and you had to compete. And, he told me I was one of the guys that was able to do that. So that meant a lot, because if you wasn't prepared, if you wasn't ready, I don't care what pick you were, Bill wasn't playing you, period.
And does that take a special sort of a thing, Willie? Like, the road's littered with guys who really talented, have all the measurables and stuff like that. If they're not going to get it or get thrown into it and absorb it, you're going to fall behind, right?
Not only will you fall behind, but it's not always, that's something I've learned. It's not always how much you can lift, how fast you are. You got to be able to apply everything to the football field. You got guys that can go in there and lift 500 pounds and do all these crazy acrobatic things. They're talented physically. You put them on a football field, it's average. And I think back then, you didn't have as much time. These camps were long and tough and hard, and as young players coming in, how I looked at it is I'm coming into a locker room with grown-ass men, like with families, and these guys are serious, and like it's dog-eat-dog. Like, if you got to go in and you got to earn everything. Nobody's going to give anything to you. And then once you get an opportunity, like, you got to go. There's no time. Like, the pressure that Parcells put on younger players, there was just like no time. You couldn't feel sorry for you. I remember hearing him say that all the time to everybody. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. This and that, like his sayings. And he was right. That's just how the game is. I mean, now it's a little bit different in a lot of ways, but back then, and then playing against those type of teams, like, you didn't have time to feel sorry for yourself, or, I'm a little tired, I'm a little beat up, or this or that, or the game plan's going in and you're not getting it, you won't be in the game.
So you guys, obviously, really exciting time around here. You win those two games, against Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. You're still a young team, obviously very talented team. What was it like, and how was there a distraction with what was going on with Coach Parcells at the time and all the rumors about him possibly leaving?
He didn't make it a distraction for us. I respect him for that, and it wasn't something that he addressed constantly to the team. We didn't talk about it in meetings. We weren't, as players, sitting around, and that was the only thing we were talking about. We know the media had caught a hold of it and what was going on.
The only thing they were talking about the whole
Right.
week. They never talked about the matchup.
I get it. We understand.
I'm not saying that that's right,
No,
by the way.
No,
but that's,
and that's what happens. Super Bowl week, if somebody gets in trouble, if there's a coaching thing that may happen, whatever it is, that's top news, right? That's
Right.
what goes into it.
yeah.
So, that's one of the things they tell you, got to avoid the distractions in the big game. But I'm not going to make excuses why we lost to the Green Bay Packers to say, oh, we were distracted and, we were all thinking about Bill leaving and that threw us off or whatever. No, that's not what happened. They beat us and, we didn't perform the way we should have. We had some errors on special teams and, we gave up some plays on defense and, whatever else offensively, they got going on defense. Reggie White he got going. And then after the game, actually, that's when Bill came up to me and I was in tears, I remember, because I was a little emotional. I was hurt. And then I knew he'd probably be going. And then he pulled me to the side like he did a couple of guys who he had those relationships with and just told me how much, he loved me and appreciated me and that, he was going to be leaving. And, we had our personal talk and, coming off the field with the confetti falling for the other team and they're ushering you off the field. And then you go in the locker room and everybody's down and you hear that, it wasn't a good day,
Does that memory, where does that memory live in your head as opposed to winning the other three? Like, you're one of the fortunate ones, Willie, because there's guys who've gone and they never win it.
Right.
Guy like Danny Marino.
Right.
Does the loss of Green Bay bother you more than any of the, or did winning it get that taste out of your mouth and maybe
it did, because
maybe that now dominates as opposed to the loss?
Yeah. You always remember the loss. I do, because it was my first one. And because of who we were playing against, it was a memorable game. And you're not guaranteed to get back to a Super Bowl. We got back, 5 years later?
Yeah.
So, I was fortunate to learn a lot from that first Super Bowl. Like, you don't know how the operational part works during the whole week. It's totally different. Everything is off. Even the game day operations, the time difference, the way you warm up, the way you come out, it's everything is different. So I think the thing that it prepared me for the next time is understanding how the operational part of it works and how you're going to have the distractions. My first one, I wanted to make sure everybody was there. I might have did too much media-wise. There's a lot of things you learn as well. And then the game, how fast it was, how fast the game went and all the things that surround that game. And you gotta remember, we had enough guys on that team to say, listen, and talk to the other guys. Everything surrounding the game is going to be there. It's going to be bigger after the game if we win. I said the worst feeling is walking off that field and the confetti's coming down and they're actually trying to get you off the field for the other team to present the trophy. You don't want that feeling.
What was, so Pete Carroll comes in.
Yeah.
And, what was that, those times like? For you personally, it was a struggle because of your health.
Yeah.
But what was that whole thing like when sort of the difference between Parcells and Belichick with him sandwiched in?
It was different personalities. And Pete still had success. He still won a Super Bowl the way he does it. But I think for this team, it was built for Parcells. The mentality, how we were coached, the personality, the motivation piece, how he interacted. It was totally opposite with Pete. Pete was, more of a cheery guy. His energy was different. I don't want to say, we wasn't as disciplined, but I don't think guys were or respected the way Pete handled things as much, because he would just, okay, we're going to fine you, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, or sometimes he's a little more rational. Parcells was cussing you out. He was in your face. You already knew if that door closes, even if it's 5 minutes before the meeting, don't walk in. Like, that's a perfect example. We had meetings, and Parcells always started 5 minutes early, and you knew that. So if the meeting was at 8, you got to be in there at 7:55. And if you wasn't in there at 7:55 and that door was closed, do not walk in, because he was going to embarrass you. He was going to cuss you out. You were still going to get fined, and you might get kicked out. When Pete was the coach, guys would walk in late, and he'd just look up, cha-ching, and go right back to what he was doing. And guys were, okay, that's kind of different. The styles were different. Everything was different. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but I think for that group, it didn't.
Did RKK ask your opinion? Because now Bill was in the secondary in '96, specifically with Lawyer and Ty.
Yep.
And I think those guys talk about RKK talking to him. Did you get a vote? Was your opinion asked for when it came time to bring Bill back?
I don't know if it was a vote, but it was definitely what do you think, or what do you think type of thing, And I know he was a good coach. I mean, like I said, he coached my favorite linebacker.
Right.
And I know he was on the staff. And then, oddly enough, he was trying to draft me. I think Cleveland had the 9th pick. So I met with Belichick for a while, and he told me, he was like, I'm going to take you, but I don't think you'll be there with the 9th pick. So oddly enough, I think if I would have got past New England and Dallas, I probably would have been in Cleveland with the 9th pick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really stood out to me with Belichick was sort of how he treated you. And I think did you guys work together to sort of develop some kind of plan to sort of maintain a little bit? Because you really struggled earlier in your career, and then all of a sudden you were available all the time.
Well, a lot of that had to do with health as well.
Yeah,
sure.
But
being out there.
Did Bill have anything to do with that?
He allowed Alex to come in.
Oh, okay.
And I think the start of that was Pete and Alex and me understanding my body and what I needed to do. Physically, I didn't hydrate a lot. There's certain things I just didn't do as a player. I didn't think I needed to do, that I had to learn. And, a big part of that was just doing a self-assessment, saying, okay, this is what you got to do. This is what you need to do. As a professional, you got to understand that. If you're having a lot of fast twitch, muscle, little injuries, there's something going on that you got to figure out, with your body. And I think Pete kind of started to let that develop. He wasn't here long enough. And then when Bill came, Bill was all about doing everything possible to make sure guys are available and that you're going to have a chance to win a game regardless of what that is, whether it's nutrition, whether it's the way we worked out, how we designed meetings, the preparation, whatever it was to give us the edge that, used to hear all the time, getting the edge, getting the advantage. And that was a big part of it, bringing Alex in and allowing him to not only work on me, but work on Seymour, work on Tom, work on everybody. And you see how, instrumental he was. He ended up being, really good friends with Tom as well and running, his business.
One thing that I don't know that fans maybe appreciated a lot about that, Willie, and this took a little time after 2001, but again, that core, it's Brewski, Vrabel comes in. Ted Johnson's still there. That corner in the locker room. Were you the head cop at that point in time? Which I think kind of people,
As someone who
and maybe very
was in the
intimidating
locker room
cop,
from time
by
to
the way.
time, yes,
Right.
Willie patrolled that locker room.
But
Absolutely.
how important was
Very
that?
intimidating.
Was that role maybe that you took on, Willie, to help not only police the locker room, but to Richard Seymour obviously looks up to you. You know, you got Seymour when he was a young pup.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's
but
my
to
younger
teach,
brother.
To teach guys like that, look at this is what it's all about, dude. You got to listen to me. You know, it's not maybe it's not saying it, but it's leading by example, so that these guys buy in.
Yeah, and I don't think that was like the title. I think it was something that was unsaid just because of, the guys the foundational guys that were there, like we mentioned. And we figured out what's our blueprint. What do we want to be? We had locker room leaders. We had positional leaders, in every position. And, we started that competing thing. So, of course, I was placed there, by Bill. And it's not like we had a talk and say, okay, you're going to police the locker room, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I think organically, he saw we had a lot of leaders, Brew, Troy Brown, I can go down the line. We had a lot of leaders on that team, but to push the message that what Patriots, what we were going to be like, what we needed to do, and an understanding of like it's team over individualism, and everybody's going to be held accountable, whatever that was. I think those things started, to get implemented by certain guys. Not that everybody had a specific role. You got to do this or you got to do that. I think the core guys understood that because we were held over from the last regime.
Right. This is not in any way to minimize a coaching staff or head coach or anything like that. But if you don't have that today in professional sports, you're kind of cooked, aren't you?
Yeah,
because you've got to be the guys that help deliver the message.
The coaches really don't run the locker room.
Right.
The players do. And if the players don't buy in, and you guys have been around long enough to see a lot of great players, a lot of great teams, coaching staffs, whatever the case may be. But if the players don't buy in, it doesn't matter how good you are or how good the game plan is or how great of a coach you are. If the players don't buy in, it's not going to work. And just remember, we had went to a Super Bowl with that same team when Pete came in. And you guys were here, right? Do you think all the players, the Terry Glenn's and all this stuff that was going on,
sure.
Do you think all the players bought into to the new regime? I don't think so. I don't think it was I can't sit here and say it was Pete's fault. I got to say, like, we had a lot of guys that, didn't buy in, that maybe wasn't mature enough to handle his coaching style, that didn't buy in, and it didn't last long. So you got to buy in, and you got to get guys on board, and they have to believe and understand what's happening to create that culture, but you got to have the right guys.
Yeah, it seemed Belichick recognized that because when he slowly, in 2000, and then some of those guys that maybe weren't buying in, some of them got older. Guys like Bruce Armstrong, just naturally got older and
that was
retired.
Stubborn, a little stubborn in his ways.
Exactly. I was trying to be polite. One of the few, I wouldn't say one of the few guys, but one of the first guys who intimidated the hell out of me in that locker room was Bruce. You were in the group.
Bruce. When I came in, Bruce, I remember running errands for Bruce as a rookie. I remember going to get breakfast for Bruce. But that's how it was back then. And I respected him because he was, he's a Pro Bowl player. He was one of the best left tackles in the game. He was the guy I went against in practice to get better. He helped me sharpen my tools. I learned a lot from him. But Bruce was aggressive. And Bruce,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He talked trash. And if you didn't, hey, back then and there, you get snatched up. If you didn't, if you didn't you do what you were supposed to do, it was a different time.
Right.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy for sure. But
He said
obviously,
interesting.
I did. I enjoyed. He was one of the really interesting guys to interview because.
But if he didn't feel like it, he wouldn't, and he would talk trash.
And he would just tell you, move along.
Right.
You know? And there were a lot of guys like that. But when he spoke, he had something to say generally.
Right.
But Belichick brought in a lot of guys, I think, recognizing we need to make sure we're getting the message here.
Right.
And that 2001 team, I don't know what the number was, but 20,
double digits,
20 or so.
Right.
New guys, that came in, and you guys all of a sudden take flight with Tom. What was that whole thing like?
He got an opportunity, due to injury, and I think Drew had just signed for $100 million that year.
Yep.
So nobody thought that this is going to happen. Tom's about to take over the $100 million quarterback, Drew's job, or whatever the case may be. We just figured that, Drew has an injury and Tom's taking over. I think Tom, wasn't he the third quarterback at the time?
Well,
he moved up in that camp.
He moved up in that camp.
He
moved up over Damon.
Yeah, over Damon Ewart.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a lot that took place that year, by the way. We lost our quarterback coach.
Dick Raybon.
Dick Raybon in camp. So there was a lot that was going on in that year, but nobody thought that was going to that switch. Nobody thought that Tom was going to just come in, take the position over, because even when he came, we didn't just go on a winning spree right away. I think our record was close to 500 or something.
When you
like
lost
that.
to the Rams, you were 6-6, right?
Yeah.
5-5.
So, nobody thought that, okay, this is that. It was like, this is what happens when there's an injury, next man up. But to our surprise in the meeting, when Drew got healthy, and Bill had that innate ability to see that this is where we was going. And there's a history to that. And people don't, I dug a little deeper. Bill Belichick had played against Drew. He played against Drew with the Jets. He played against Drew with Cleveland when he was coaching with the Jets with Bill, and then when he was the head coach with Cleveland, he played against Drew. So as a defensive-minded coach, you kind of dig into the quarterback and all those different things. So maybe he had a lot more insight of where Drew, how far he could go. I don't know what year that was for Drew. Drew came in.
His first year was 93.
93. So
a year older than you.
Right.
8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years. So you kind of know what a guy is by then. And you do have experience game planning against him. So maybe he knew his ceiling. Maybe he knew his flaws. Maybe he knew, what he could or couldn't do, or whatever the case may be. I just think that was a pretty historical move when the owner gives a quarterback $100 million and you got a guy.
Better be right.
You better be right. You got a guy who's coming in playing good. There's nothing's jumping off the charts at the time. Our defense was probably the callous on the team.
No question about it.
And you hand over the throne when Drew gets healthy, and we have that team meeting, and he says, listen, I always do what's best for the team, not the individual, and some of my decisions may not always be popular for individuals or some people, but I'm always going to do what's best for the team. And saying that, we're going to continue to move forward with Tom as the quarterback, because, the media was like, is Drew healthy? When is he coming back and all that? That was our meeting when he handed it over to Tom, and we all kind of looked around like, okay. A little surprised, just like we were surprised when he did the thing with Lawyer, Again, same speech. My decisions isn't always based on individuals. It's based on what's best for the team. And he traded Drew and, Lawyer to Buffalo, and Tom took over. But even before that, he announced that Tom was going to be the quarterback. And then when Tom got hurt and Drew started against Pittsburgh, it was at the AFC Championship.
Came in the middle of the game.
Came in, yeah.
And Drew had a phenomenal game. Everybody was kind of like, Okay, we're going back. We're going to go back to Drew. Came in the meeting, did the same thing. Tom's our starter because the media, you guys, everybody starts going crazy. We got a controversy. We got a quarterback dilemma. We got this. We got that. It's like, nope. And even Drew thought that was it. Like he got it. He had got his job back.
Right.
Like I know you guys have talked to Drew, and
Yeah.
you guys. Even Drew was like, okay, I did what I need to do. I played great. We won. This is my dream. I'm going to start in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to have an opportunity to win because when I had my other opportunity, I didn't do what I need to do. So I'm going to win this time. And then again in the meeting, Bill makes the call. We're going to time. We're going back to time. He's our quarterback, and that's the direction we're moving in. I don't want anybody talking about it in the media. I'm doing what's best for the team. Like I said, everybody might not like it. And the room just went, the air just out of the room. It was like, all right, let's go.
That one to me didn't surprise me as much because I thought that one was all about Tom's ankle. If Tom was healthy, I felt like the way he had played for you guys, he deserved. And I was a huge Drew guy, you know that.
Yeah.
But the first one did surprise me. I thought when Drew was healthy, he'd get a chance to win his job back, and Bill basically said that's not going to happen.
You don't pay a guy that much,
right?
And like not if you're paying a quarterback that much, how many lives does he have?
Absolutely.
He has 1 million lives,
Right.
no matter what.
Right.
And
It was bold.
Yeah. There's a guy that Paul mentioned, a lot of the roster turnover guys that came in 01. One guy that came in that was playing your position, playing the same side of the ball was Mike Vrabel.
yeah,
What was your first impressions about him when he came in, Willie?
big physical, athletic white guy that plays linebacker. That's good. That talks a lot of, his personality. He fit right in. He was smart. Vrabel was super smart. And, he had come from a good system in Pittsburgh. So we know he knew the game. And I think Bill changed it for him because he was playing like DN, right?
Yeah.
When he was with Pittsburgh. And for us, again, that prototype linebacker Bill loves coming from that system. Mike's 6'5", 250, whatever the case. Put him outside, stand him up. He's fast. He's athletic. He's smart. He can drop. He can play in space. It just fit everything we were doing because at that time our base was, a Tampa 2, but we were still playing a true 34 defense where the linebackers had, a lot of responsibility. You had to be a pass rusher. You had to play the run, and you had to be able to drop in coverage and understand coverages and the passing concepts. And he fit that bill perfectly.
Was he one of the few guys that could give it back to Belichick?
He can give back to anybody. He's never at a loss for words, Mike, but it's all in his personality. It's how he plays as well. He's aggressive. He get after you. He's a playmaker, and he's going to tell you about it.
I want to be respectful of your time, so I want to jump ahead a little bit to 2003. And Paul mentioned, I'm going to let Paul ask this part, but first, before we get to the play, how badly were you hurt on that final drive in Indianapolis at Indianapolis? I mean, you were really.
It was hurt and injured. So
you were really hurt on that play, weren't you?
Right. So here's a little something that I don't know if you know or may not know. That week of practice, one of the things that Belichick, again, talk about preparation, we talked about on the defensive side that Peyton Manning liked to do is if there's a player injured and you're trying to run off the field and you're trying to run somebody off on the field, he would snap the ball to get the penalty. At the time, there was no rule, a timeout rule for injuries, right? If you're injured, it's automatic timeout. The team doesn't get charged or any of that. It's just a injury timeout. So I heard Belichick during practice all the time, like talking about it. If you're hurt, stay down. Don't try to crawl off or limp off because the other guy's going to be coming. You're not going to get off. This guy's going to snap the ball and it's going to be a penalty. Well, that was an important drive. The they were driving down to win the game. You know, we were whooping them pretty good the first half, and they had all the momentum in the second half. And this drive, they were marching down, kind of like a 2-minute situation. So I went to make a move, and my knee got caught in the turf, and I went down, and I tried to get up, and I was about to try to limp off, like. And Bill, I remember Bill in my ear. I can hear him in practice. Stay down. Well, I stayed down. We were prepared for the situation. Clock stops. Everything stops. Injury timeout. And I come off. If I wasn't as hurt, I would have came in the next play. Remember, I was out. Like, I didn't come back in, I think, till 4th down.
I think you're right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
I didn't come back in till 4th down. If I was like, you know, if there was just something I was faking, I would have came right back in.
Right.
There was no rule that you couldn't come back in the next play.
Right.
I would have came right back in. But I was out till 4th down till I was ready to go.
So what do you remember about the play? I would argue that single play won you guys another Super Bowl because
That's a big statement, and I think he might be right.
And I know you guys had all the confidence in the world that you could have gone to Indy and beaten.
We didn't want to go back to
Indy,
Indy, though.
Exactly. So I think that singular play allows the playoff game to be back in Foxborough.
Yeah, I didn't know how big it was until we did, right? I mean, the way we finished, was 14-2, home field throughout. Home field was super important in those days.
Yeah.
We got the home field advantage. You know, it was we stop them, we kind of duke. You know, Peyton Manning, you know, we kind of throw him off disguise and threw him off on that play. He checked into the play. You know, that was perfect for what we were in. I was disguising like I was in coverage. The end man on the line in our defense never drops in the coverage. We're always rushing. So just playing chess with him and doing some of those things, and great penetration by Terry Washington and the guys up front. And I come off and, you know, funny enough, Vrabel's running down the field with me with our hands up.
That's the image.
You know, that's the image.
Yep.
Vrabel's running down the field with me on that play, but how instrumental winning that game was. You know, it was a total team effort, but certain things stand out, of course, because that was the end of the game and it meant a lot. But that game and winning that game, like you guys said, it put us in position to have an opportunity to win that game, to win a Super Bowl.
All right, we want to wrap it up with you, Willie, here, but, you know, three titles. Which one was your favorite? Which one was the best team that you played on?
That's tough. I would probably say we added Rodney Harrison. We added, you know, we added the Asante Samuel. Like we got some good players.
You were loaded. You can say it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably the last. It's probably
the 04 team.
04.
Probably the 04 team.
I think the 04 had the best blend of offense and defense. You guys were always so good defensively.
Yeah,
but I think that year with Corey
I would
Dillon,
say balance-wise, all the way around. Yeah, it was 04.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming here. I tell you what, it's great to see you on the sideline and you hugging Vrabel, the connection between the past and the present.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's what it's all about.
It is,
I'm very sentimental about stuff like that. I love it. And when I see you there and the reaction that the two of you have, like, great and great.
It's my guy.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
And he's taking all that in his own way, and he's filtering it through the team. And you can kind of see everybody's – the question does it remind you of the 01 team where nobody thought you guys would be where you were, and you just got guys just came out of nowhere? But it takes a coach like that to have that experience. I know he wasn't there, but to have that experience and understand and know and be on the team to build it inside out, guys having fun but working hard, being accountable, the preparation, believing in himself, putting team over individualism, and all the things that he's incorporating. He was with, you know, he played for some great coaches, and he's implementing that, but he's doing it Vrabel style. So I'm proud of him. I enjoy watching him. I told him that on the sideline, and hopefully this team can just keep going in the right direction.
Willie, thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.